Hello. I was debating on if I was just going to shoot some video today or if I was going to go live. I've got the opportunity, so I figured, what the heck, I'll just go ahead and go live. Um, and as you can tell, there's a bag here from Smoky Mountain Knife Works. I managed to go there just before the 4th of July, the weekend before the 4th of July. I actually tried shooting some footage there so I could put up a video, but the footage was just between the background noise and everything else, it just did not work out at all. Um, and also, it was interesting because they started following me. Hi, Rusty Knife Lover. They kind of started following me around like I was casing the joint or something. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna just pass on this because I do seem very suspicious the way I'm filming this, and so I still had some pictures. Maybe I'll use those later. Hi, Thorne and Kim Roberts. Nice to see you. So I did pick up a few things there, and I thought, well, as long as I can't really do some film footage from SMKW, I could at least show you what I picked up while I was there. Hi, Chris Osh. I really did not pick up a lot of stuff. When I go there maybe once or twice a year, and well, quite frankly, it's actually easier to shop for things from SMKW. Hi, everybody. Menace with a Knife and a few other people that I missed. Donkey Dave. Any case, going there and shopping is a little bit distracting because you can become very overwhelmed with the amount of stuff there, even if you know exactly what you're looking for. And quite frankly, my advice to anyone who wants to go shopping at, hi Ben, anyone who wants to go shopping at Smoky Mountain Knife Works, if you have the opportunity to go there. Hi, Volkskrant from Minneapolis. Hope everything is settling down there up in Minneapolis. I wish it was here in Chicago. In any case, if you plan on shopping there, my advice is to go there with a shopping list, know where you're going to want to go to, and ask help finding the various counters and everything, because they will help you locate where the various knives are at. Most of the people there are very knowledgeable of what's where. And the idea to have a list with you, I would say, depending on how much you want to spend, if you're looking at spending a couple $100, then pick out about $600-700 worth of stuff, and then limit yourself to what you really want, because not everything is in stock, especially right now. There was a lot of stuff missing there just before the 4th, but they had just opened, so that might have been one of the reasons the inventory was low. Had only been open for about 2 weeks by the time I went there. In any case, there was only a couple things that I was actually looking for there, and many of the things were not there, so I went a different direction. I always go by the Rough Rider booth. I'll start with that because, let me move this bag. There's something in the bag I'm going to show in a little bit. But I always start at the Rough Rider booth because, well, frankly, where I come in, that's where it's at. It would be a good place to go for a meeting, to have some kind of a, like the SMKW Army meeting there or something like that. It would be kind of cool. In any case, I went and grabbed this at the Rough Rider booth. Kind of a silly knife, and it's, but I wanted it mainly because of the shape. I think I talked about this knife in the video about things that are gone in the collection, and this is one of those knives that is quickly disappearing. This little lockback folding knife that they have. It's not a very big knife. It's 3 inches closed and 5 inches open. And this is the last of the line as far as I know, so I went ahead and picked it up. Yeah, it's pink. That's always a drawback on it. It's in their love, peace, friendship knives. We can kind of guess, that this knife is being sold to the old hippie freaks as well as young girls and stuff. And it's actually a pretty nice knife. I've got it, like I said, in white smooth bone. Need to pick it up in a couple other ones, the orange smooth bone and the brown jigged, which I will probably never find, but got a nice little peace symbol on there. And well, it does go with a few of my other pink knives. I've got a total of 5 pink pocket knives now. There's this one. This is a little mini scout knife in the hot series, and the little Knittler. So the three blade Whittler, I showed that one in the Gone Forever series too. Nice split back spring there, and also in the breast cancer awareness knife that they had, which is a bartender knife. Oh, and I also have a small equal in pen knife that I don't have with me, but I will have in a second. Talk amongst yourselves again. I'll be right back. It's right behind me, I think. Of course I hit it, so I'll never find it. Yeah, naturally, I put it somewhere I can't find, so I will have to break that one out in a future episode. My other pink one, it's like a pink anodized aluminum, but I do have this one. This is the pink Edelweiss by Victorinox, so that's 5 pink knives. So and with the little love, peace, friendship from Rough Rider being the last one. And I do kind of like it. I wish they would have offered it in other things than pink. I like the little peace symbol shield, very much a 19s, retro 1960s kind of thing, which would be kind of cool. So I'd like to see more of them with a little peace shield, but I have a feeling they're just stuck with pink with the smooth bone. And this is probably the most even dye of pink smooth bone in any of the knives that I got from them. So it looks like they finally got it right when it comes to pink smooth bone. This one's nice, pretty close, but it is also blotchy. This one is about as smooth as you can get. So that was pretty cool. I just got a message from them to check out their newest automatic knives. That's from SMKW. Next thing I picked up, and as you see here, it says display. It's the last knife in the classic carbon series. I had all the other knives. I won all the other classic carbon knives in a SMKW giveaway. So I had the whole set. But after that set was done, they came out with the Barlow. And so I ended up having to pick one up, and it was the last one they had. So this was the one on display. Not a big deal. It means a lot of people have opened and closed it over the years, which really meant that it was already broke in pretty well. And opens and closes pretty easily. They cleaned it and oiled it for me before they handed it over to me, which was nice. But I do understand what people are talking about with the with a lot of the Rough Rider Barlows. If you notice, the thumbnail, the thumb nick in the back there, the nail nick, it is kind of low, and you kind of have to reach in there between the blades in order to get to it, which is a little unfortunate. It seems like the clip blade in the back needs to be a little more proud, or the front blade needs to drop down a little lower. I think what I might do is actually try and lower the nick on here, but we'll see if that happens. Hi, Grom. Because yeah, it is a little tricky to get to. It is doable. I can do it easy enough over and over, but it is a little low also. And I really, really, really wish that instead of this big R in the bolster, they would have just moved the double R up into the bolster. I really, I like that it is embossed, but I just don't like the big R in there. At least it's not slanted. And I wish also that they would just get rid of the what looks like a T underneath there. if they're going to do it, just put the R in there and forget about the lines. I think that would look nicer. What do other people think? Would you rather see like a double R up here or the Rough Rider horseshoe, or is this just fine with you? For me, I would much rather see the horseshoe shield up there. If you let me go grab another Barlow and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Sorry about that. I really should prepare better. Which looks better? This one or this one? This one or this one? Let's face it, I personally really like the horseshoe shield with the double R. It just looks so much nicer than the R that's turned this way. And it just seems that's what they should be doing, at least with the Barlows. And a Barlow never needs a shield as far as I'm concerned. Put all the billboarding up on the bolster. All right, enough bashing on the Rough Rider Barlow. I really like it still. It's, you know, absolutely a perfectly usable knife and solid, well made. You're talking 1095 carbon steel. They call it T10. That's the Chinese equivalent of a 1095 carbon steel, is the T10 carbon steel. So happy to have it. I wish I would have gotten down there a little earlier, because if I did, I would have picked up 2 of them because I really wanted one of these to use. But this one is unfortunately just going into the display with the rest of the classic carbon. And then once I can get another one, I'll go ahead and grab another one. Other thing that I picked up down there, why, I don't know, but I saw it and I said, all right, I'm going to go ahead and grab this. As you can see, a whole $10 for the $7 knife, which I will probably end up giving away to someone else. But what I was looking at is this little job up here. Their little, the Australians have a name for this. And it's really a funky name for their it's for their eating tool, but they have Fred. It's called something like Fred or something, and I don't know exactly what Fred stands for, but it basically is what they call their eating utensil. And well, let's get it out. That's what I planned on doing. So let's start opening these things up. I actually waited. I am not going to open in front of the camera because I am not going to cut myself. And if I do cut myself, I'm not cutting myself in front of the camera. And talk about some thick plastic wrap on this. Man, that was rough. All right, got it open. Come on, Fred, drop out. So there we have it. Now the Australian one, the one that the Australian military uses, it doesn't have the little fork tines here. It's just a full spoon. I'm hard pressed to think about eating using that as a spoon or even as a fork. And you got a much bigger can opener than what you have on a P38, which is probably helpful. After all, that's what this is. It's like a P38 built into a spoon, which is kind of interesting. Hi, Slick Slicers. Busy uploading. Oh, cool. So we'll have something to see soon. I hate the plastic. It's sharper than some of the knives that come in it. There is some truth to that. It's also got a little bottle opener here, which is kind of cool. And then obviously the hole for attaching to your dog tags or to some kind of lanyard. Going to have to try this out. I think the first thing that's going to be fed with this is probably my cat. I'll be using this to dig cat food out for a while and see if it stains or not, and then eventually see what else I can do with it. Very flat spoon, very flat. There's no bowl to it whatsoever, really, but should be useful. Now I've already had I've already done reviews on this, so I'm not going to talk much about that. But this is the Marbles GI knife, and you can get both of them for $10. So I saw it online and I put it in my wish list, and I said, well, you know what? If I go down there and I see it, I'll go ahead and pick it up if I don't see anything else that I'm interested in. Mainly because I wanted to see this, but I didn't want to spend just to buy this. So I went ahead and bought the combo, and kind of happy with it. I don't know what I will do with the knife. I'll probably end up giving the knife away eventually, but I wanted to check out that Fred, and we'll see how Fred does. Now that is about as useless as a certain portion of anatomy that you find on a bull, but they don't use them. But I guess it does have a good tight spring on it. Seems to be working a little bit. So if you need a little carabiner, it comes with it too. Don't know if I'll need that or not, but I bought it simply because it was there, really. So that's what I got so far. That's 1, 2, and the Marbles knife. I should throw that out there and have that in picture too. What I was really going for when I was going is right here. They were out of stock. They came back in stock. I showed up at the SMKW looking to buy them there, and they were nowhere to be seen. I asked the person who was the salesperson there at the Victorinox counter if she had any in stock, and she said, well, we'll look around. And they went into this big drawer on the bottom of a display and started digging through there, and literally she spent about 5 minutes digging through the drawer, pulling different things out before she found it. And I was very grateful that she actually took the time to do that. She didn't have to. I saw that it wasn't on the display. They had a display of everything that was ours 2040 is on the way. Which one is that? The 2040. Any case, they did not have it displayed. I told her it's the Betsy Ross one. Oh, the Barlow. Cool. Is that the number on that? Oh, so it is. Cool. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any case, they had it buried, and then she pulled it out and goes, well, I guess, and then she said, I guess I better go through the drawer and find out if there's any more in there. This was the last one in the drawer. She said they might have them over in the warehouse, but usually what happens is they're calling over from the warehouse over to the store to grab stock to send it out. So it might be that things were just a little convoluted simply because of all the COVID-19 shutdowns and everything. But fortunately, they had one there, and I got one now. I'm going to use the Marbles knife here to cut the plastic on this, which is a lot easier than the plastic on the Marbles. One thing that drives me nuts, and a lot of people with Marbles, is Marbles always has a tendency to put their name on the blade, and this seems to bug a lot of people. But you know what's interesting? Get does the same thing with the Northfield lineup, and I never hear anyone complaining about Northfield, Great Eastern Cutlery having Northfield etched into the blades on those knives. So it's kind of strange. When it's a high-end knife, they don't catch nearly as much flack about having a blade etch advertising their company. But when it's a low-end knife and you put your blade etch on there with your name advertising it, suddenly people start complaining about it. Anyway, so here we go. I cut it open, and let's get this out and see what it looks like without the plastic. Yeah, people always ask, do you save the plastic? I definitely do not save the plastic on Victorinox knives. I don't worry about it. I do not think it's going to increase the value of the knife 1 iota. Now, boxes and stuff like that, that becomes a little more tricky. But we see here, this was what it is. It's the 1028 Betsy Ross Tinker. I know that they decided to do this because of some kind of protesting or something like that. I don't know what all the details were, because I tried to avoid all of the politics involved in it. I just saw it and I was like, man, that's one I want. I like the Betsy Ross flag. It's probably my #2 favorite flag from the Revolutionary War, and it's also my #2 favorite flag, USA made flag. I like this one #2. My #1, my all-time favorite USA made flag is the Custer flag. I really like that one, which is an interesting design too. It's got gold stars instead of white stars. Any case, see I like the coloring on there. I thought this was just going to be a solid red and a solid white, but it looks kind of like marble or pearly or something like that. It is or aged or something. Same with the blue here. There's some, it looks like it's kind of aged or something. It's very interesting the way it's colorized. It's basically just a tinker. So, and these are ABS scales. They're not the cellulose or Celador scales. They're ABS scales. Oh, age painted wood. Yeah, that would make sense. That's kind of like what it looks like, aged painted wood. You know, you got your toothpick here and the tweezers here. I did not read anything about it. Hi, Jersey Knife Guy. I didn't read anything about this. I just saw it and I was like, man, I want that. I didn't read the descriptions or anything. I'm sure they did a better job describing it than I'm doing right now. You've got your punch with the sewing eye in it, or your awl, whatever, sewing awl. So your can opener, cap lifter screwdriver, main blade, and small blade, and obviously the Phillips driver on the back side here. So that's all it is a tinker. But that was the knife I primarily was there going for. I had other things on the list that I was going to buy, but they were either out of stock or once I saw them, I just wasn't as interested in them. But there was one surprise I came across, and I really liked that. And it wasn't a knife, but it was there, and it was this, the Swiss Army Knife's Camping and Outdoor Survival Guide, 101 Tips and Tricks. Well, whoever that is, they can wait. So anyway, I got this Swiss Army Knife Guide, Camping and Outdoor Survival Tips by Brian Lynch. It was there, $12.99, good price as far as I was concerned, and really nice, well-made book. It's got it talks about a couple different patterns, and then goes into quite a few tips in there. I'm saying trips. Any case, how to sharpen your saw, sharpening other tools, how to use the pull-throughs, batoning wood with a Swiss Army knife. Yes, you can do it. And the different ways of draw cutting and everything else. And also goes into bushcraft and survival and all this other stuff. So really interesting book. And different ways to modify your Swiss Army knife to do different things. So haven't had a chance to go through it all yet, but I saw it and it's like, man, that's really cool. So I had to go ahead and grab the book, and we'll see how it works. And once I start doing some things in there, I will actually, I'll never be the next Felix Imler. If you haven't checked out Felix Imler, if you're into Swiss Army knives and different things you can do with Swiss Army knives, you really got to check out Felix Imler. Yeah, you do need that book. It's a really good book. If you're into camping, if you're into fishing, any of that stuff, and you like Swiss Army knives, or then no reason not to get the book. So that's basically the knives that I picked up plus the book. Not much. There were other things I was looking at, and then well, there wasn't anything else that I saw that really piqued my interest. So I did the next best thing, which is what I would also do if you go there and you know, and you're not seeing what you want, get yourself a gift card. And that's what I did. I went ahead and picked up a gift card so that I can continue my shopping online when the time comes. Because, you know, why not? That way I've got free shipping. Well, not free shipping, but I've already paid for it. So when I find what I'm really interested in, like whenever they're doing their special of the day or something, they might throw out something there that I really want. Plus, as you know, they've been saying within a month, there's going to be all sorts of new knives showing up. So, well, when the new knives show up, I've already paid for them. So I'm set for that too. One other thing, switching gears now, I'm going to leave the Betsy Ross knife out. But one other thing that I thought I'd talk about is in my last Knife Chats Live, I was talking about those knives with the beverage can opener. Well, this was this is a fish knife that I have with it also. This is also made by Imperial. And you see here, there's the can piercer or beverage can opener on the back of a fish knife. This is the other knife that I know of that they have. And otherwise, it's your basic fish knife. You know, just and it's by Imperial also, like the Camp King Deluxe was by Imperial. And if you notice, what they've done is they have a back spring here that bends around and comes to the top here, so that this is held under a little bit of tension to hold it in place, opening and closing. The other blade on there is obviously the fish killer and the cap lifter. So you got your bottle opener and you have your beverage can opener, all on a fish knife. So it doesn't matter if you got your cans of beer or if you got a bottle of beer. And speaking of which, Imperial was not the only ones who did something like that. This was by the Providence Cutlery Company, and this is just a little pen knife. I think you can see there, Providence Cutlery Company, and they turned out a lot of really chintzy knives. But so you've got your little clip blade there, and then also a beverage can opener or a beverage can piercer. And this one, because of the way the thing is set, you can also use this as a regular cap lifter too. So you can actually pop open a beer bottle or pierce a beer can with this. You know, so if you're stuck out back in the 1950s, late 50s, early 60s, have this with you. You're going to be the life of the party when it comes to opening up cans of beer. Not so much today. Everyone just would look at you and like, what are you doing with that? What's that weird thing? But anyway, those are the things that I picked up recently. Carnation milk thing over here, there. Yeah, carnation milk. You can still use these to pop open a can of carnation milk. Remember those, they had like a round lid with two like nails in it almost, that you would set on top of your can of carnation milk, and then you would whack it with your hand and it poked two perfect holes in the can of carnation milk, and then you lift that up. That one was really interesting. And it was really just used for, I think, carnation milk. I think they actually made them for that sole purpose. That was kind of cool. Now everyone is like, what the heck is he talking about? Well, I thought the other thing I would show is a few knives that I think I've talked about a couple of these on occasion, but I've never really pulled them all out at once. So I thought I would pull the ones out that I have. I'm missing two. I'm missing the very first Bill Lowen hooked up or going fishing knife, whatever it was, which was a white smooth-boned canoe with the little fish shield on it. Now these were knives that Smoky Mountain Knife Works was putting out for a while. Actually 7 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, for 7 years. I'm missing 2 of the set of 7. Like I said, the first one was a canoe. And what they would do is they had this big giveaway, like $2,500 worth of stuff giveaway that they were working with Buck. And the knives that would come out would have, all of them would have a nickel silver shield, except for one, which would have a gold shield on it. And that gold shield was worth the $2,500 giveaway, which included like a boat or something like that. That was done through Buck and Bill Lowen. In any case, I did not get the very first knife, which was a canoe. But the second knife I ended up picking up, which is a mini trapper. And this is one of the few mini trappers I have, few trappers in general I have. This is the second one I picked up. And then the very next year, they came out with the standard trapper. And I was like, seriously? These are supposed to be fish knives. Why in the world are you giving out a trapper, just a standard trapper? And I figured I already had the mini canoe. Well, I already had the mini trapper, and I didn't have the canoe, so I skipped on getting the trapper. And then the very next year, it was I think this is the next one they came out with after the trapper, 5-inch toothpick. I was like, man, now I wish I could get the trapper, but the trapper was gone, and so was the canoe. So I had 2 of them, and I have done a video on the toothpick, obviously, and I'm hooked and everything else. And now they've moved into blue instead of green or white. And you see the seabed on the background. And then the following year, they came out with this one. And this is pretty cool too. It's an actual fish knife. It's like, wow, they finally decided to make a fish knife for a fisherman. How strange is that they would actually make a fish knife for a fisherman? And you see this little bail here. You'll see this on the Rough Ryder fishing knives, the couple that are out there. I think they've got 2 of them out there. And if you notice, it looks like a little hook going around. This end is the sharp pointy part of the hook, and then you have this part here. And then, you've got a nice main blade, and the main blade locks. It's a liner lock on the main blade, on the clip blade. And then you have your fish scaler here, but the fish scaler is not your typical old style fish scaler. I have a fish knife here, I think. This is the way fish scalers used to be up back in the 40s, well, actually all the way back into the 20s, all the way into like the 70s and 80s. If you notice, it's very rough and not sharp at all. Well, they've changed that with these modern fish scalers. If you notice that, it's very much sharp. You can very easily cut yourself with that because it doesn't only act as a fish scaler. It actually also works as a bone cutter. So this is for cutting off the fins on the knife, cutting off the head on the knife, or fins on the fish, or the head of the fish. So it's for actually cutting through fish bone and stuff, so that you don't wear out the blade on your main blade, the edge on your main blade. So they actually came out with a fish scaler boning or bone cutting blade. And if you notice there, it is also measured out. So you've got a 3.5-inch rule on the blade, plus the hook remover that doesn't work too well, and the cap remover, which works just fine. So really an excellent fish knife, and I'm glad that they ended up taking this basic knife and moving it over into the Rough Ryder lineup, because they are made in China for Buck. They were made in China for Buck through Smoky Mountain Knife Works, and then this knife just moved over into the Rough Ryder lineup after Buck got finished with it. Now the next one that showed up is this one here, and this is a really, really big knife. I have shown it before. When I was talking about the For Love of Trappers, because this is one of my favorite ones, they call this a trapper. It's 5 inches long, and it looks very much more like a folding hunter than a trapper by any stretch of the imagination. This is definitely more folding hunter than trapper, but they called it a jumbo trapper. And what you got there is a pretty wicked locking main blade. Talk about a very interesting shape for a clip blade. It's really more of a skinning blade, and a very wicked looking skinning blade on top of that. I have not used it yet, but boy am I tempted to, because that is just really cool. And then for a secondary blade, you can already see by the shape it's more of a Wharncliffe than anything else, but it's not your typical Wharncliffe. Once again, it's a fish scaling blade, or a bone cutting blade. So this is for cutting through your fish bones and everything, but it has that nice Wharncliffe blade tip on there, so you can really do some other damage with it too. So really a cool knife. And once again, they used the really interesting fish hook bail on it, which was a nice thing that they did. And unfortunately, you're not going to find these knives anymore. I really wish they would all make it over into the Rough Rider lineup. The last one here is the last of the Bill Lowen going fishing knives, or gone fishing. Notice on the back side here that you have a 2-inch rule on the back. I don't know why that's going to help. This is probably one of the smaller ones. It's only well, let's see. Yeah, so basically about a 3 3/4 inch teardrop, and really not a bad little knife. And this is one that I really wish they would come out in the Rough Rider lineup for, because of the blade choices you got here. Got a really nice, I guess they like to call them a drop point now. I still refer to them as a Spearmaster blade, a spear point. You got a nice little swedge up on the top there, and a little bit of a saber grind going there. It's a nice hollow ground blade, and it has the half stop going for it, so this is definitely something that they could move into the Rough Rider lineup even today. And then the backside blade is once again a little bone cutting blade, or a serrated blade, a little pin blade with a serrated edge. So you've got a couple different options there on your blade choices. And this one I just really like. And I really wish they would move this over into the either the Rough Rider lineup or the Marbles lineup, because this I think this knife would definitely be a big hit. Could you imagine this, say, in the oh, where's it at? I got one here somewhere, like the brown stag bone. Could you imagine that in brown stag bone? I think that would look nice. I thought I had one here, but I don't. But seeing that in brown stag bone, or just about anything else that they have out there, the tobacco smooth bone would be nice too. Could you imagine that if they were to decide to come back with a new knife in the Outdoorsman series and throw the acorn shield on this knife? That'd be really cool. But as it was, these knives were made for Buck through Smoky Mountain Knife Works as a Bill Lowen kind of a promotional. And it seems to me it's a pity that these frames are kind of not there. Especially the ones that are these four here. I'm sorry, these three here, because you do not see these very often. They have done a couple of the Rough Rider fish knives. They didn't sell nearly as well as they should have, I guess, so that's why they're not doing those. But these two should definitely be around still, and I think they should be made for the fishermen out there. I think it'd be interesting. They already got the fish scales, so or the fish shield. They should consider throwing that fish shield into a few other new knives out there too. Let me take a little sip of water, and then I'm going to start wrapping things up a little bit here. because I see I've been yammering for about 39 minutes now, which is probably more than long enough for you guys. Yeah, I think what I'll do though is I'll stick around for a little bit and try and follow the feed on the side there. If any of you guys have any questions for me or anything like that, I can try and answer them for you. In the meantime, let me move this over. This is something I picked up at one of the little hardware stores, and I put it around a cup, my workbench, and I got different things in there that I tend to use for my workbench, and I throw knives and stuff like that in there and other stuff that I'm going to be using. But I think I'm supposed to be using this for like pens and pencils and stuff, but for some reason I never got around to that. But I do like using it, and it's a nice thing to have for a cup. You know, instead of a 5-gallon bucket, you got that little thing that you can wrap around that. And what else do I got here? Looking for questions and that I might be able to answer. Anything that bothers you so, like, I might be able to answer. The other thing I'm also going to do is I think I'm going to take and get one of those pieces of magnet and glue that to the back of my card once I'm finished using it, so that I'll have a nice refrigerator magnet. I think that'll work nice as a refrigerator magnet. It beats the other things. One of the other things I got, this is for cutting line and stuff. It comes with your, they got different ones for the current version of the Air Force survival knives. This is, I think, the second model of it. Has an oxygen wrench on it and a replaceable razor blade that goes on the inside there. You unscrew this and you replace the line cutter in there, which is a little bit better than the newer ones that they have. Oh, here's the sheath. This is the older version that came with them, and it's just got a double cutting item there. Again, you have to remove the screws to pull it out. And this is the remember how they used to have a nice stone in the Air Force survival knife? Well, there's your nice stone now. It's right there. It's right on that. But got a few of those laying around now. Might have to give a couple of these away. I don't know. All right, if there's no questions out there, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap things up now. And what do you use to sharpen your traditional knives? Let me show you. I'll bring one out. That's it. One side coarse, one side not so, well, more or less fine. That's what I use, a sharpening stone. I use pull-throughs occasionally for real quick work, but mostly it's a sharpening stone that I use. Been sharpening knives since I was about 16 or 17. I tell you what, I used to be better at it than I am now, and that probably has to do with failing eyes and a little bit of arthritis in the hands. But I still prefer to use a stone. I think that's the way, once you know how to use a stone, that's probably the best way to sharpen your knives. Pull-throughs are okay, I guess, but to me, a stone works about the best. The other thing I also will use occasionally is a piece of sandpaper, and what I will do with the sandpaper is I will take and lay it over the wood box here and go and just sharpen right on the sandpaper. Usually when I'm using sandpaper, it is really to get a nice fine edge. They talk about scary razor sharp. You can actually kind of do that with sandpaper once you know what you're doing. And it's really, after you've hit it with the stone, then you move into like 1200 grit and 2000 grit sandpaper to really get a nice edge. And then you still have to do some stropping and everything, because as the Jersey Knife Guy will tell you, you got to strop. Stropping, and the more you strop, the better off you are. Actually, emery cloth, I have not used emery cloth too much, but I have used emery cloth for polishing on occasion. It really depends again on what the grit is on the emery cloth. So, but I usually will use either a stone or sandpaper for the sharpening, and then move on to a nice leather strop. Stropping is in the shiznick. We can go with that. But I have used many of different pull-throughs. I'm not crazy about them, but when there's nothing else around, it's not a bad idea. And I usually will carry a one of those pull-throughs with me, because when there's an emergency and you need to sharpen something a little bit, it's better than nothing. I have even and that's one of the things that people will talk about. Um, the Some of those old Ontario knives that are, you know, like 1095 carbon steel, and they're basically just a work knife, like a putty knife or something. I have seen, and I know it will work, where people have just used a brick or just a concrete floor to sharpen the blade. Does it look nice? No. Is it pretty? No. But can they get it razor sharp? Yeah. And so, and that's what they're doing it for. They just need to sharpen their knife as best they can real quick, because they're cutting some heavy stuff, like cutting linoleum or something. I have actually seen a person, they're cutting linoleum, they'll lay it over a concrete floor, and I have seen them take and sharpen their knife on the concrete floor to cut the linoleum. And yeah, same thing with a car window, and also the bottom of a cup, or the lip of a cup, to hone the blade. All of them are good ideas, and it'll work. Not the best way to do it, but it'll work. And other than that, what did with knives used to cut fiberglass, sharpening on concrete? Yeah, I can picture that. Always carry a DMT. The one I got to pick up is the one that showed you the car window trick. What I do is I like you know, not my own, but and not anyone's that I know, but a good piece of like a granite countertop, or even the lid on your on a toilet bowl. Those also work pretty good for sharpening your or getting the burrs off your blade to get them a little sharper and everything. So, you know, as long as you got something there that you can work with it, and it has a nice flat edge, and you know, you can usually work it up a little bit. But I need to get the little Victorinox pocket sharpener that Jersey Knife Guy was talking about, that Pete was talking about, that basically looks like an ink pen, and they're not that expensive. I really do want to pick up one of those, because I think that would be handy. What I'd also like to do is get better at sharpening with a rod, you know, a nice knife steel, like they use for sharpening butcher knives and stuff like that, because that could be very handy for me, because, well, quite frankly, I end up cutting more meat than I do anything else. So, you know, and I was actually looking the other day, and I tell you what, man, do I have some dull steak knives in my drawer? I really, they're almost to the point of embarrassing. So I really need to do something like that. Touch up with a ceramic rod, yeah, that would be helpful too. Um, yeah, isn't it strange, the knives that you have in your kitchen? You pay less attention to those than you do the knives that you have in your collection, and the ones that you're using in the kitchen you're using more often. And sometimes you go to grab it, and it's like, man, this knife's sharp or dull, and you throw it back in the drawer and go grab another knife. It's funny because the last couple Thanksgivings that rolled around, it was time to cut the turkey. And instead of grabbing one of the knives from the kitchen drawer, I ran downstairs and grabbed my fillet knife out of my fishing gear because I knew it was sharper than anything that was in the drawer. Mom used to use the back doorstep. How do I clean my knives? I should do a video on that one because it is a little bit long and involved, and it really depends on how dirty it is. But in general, when I first get a knife, if I feel that it is not functioning very well, I will take and the first thing I do is get some nice hot water running, and then I hold the knife under the hot water right in the joints and let it flush out as much stuff as I can, and then I dry it out, usually using compressed air to blow out most of the air. And then I do it again, hit it with the hot water and see what other gunk I can get out, and hit it with compressed air to knock out to get the water out of it as best I can. And then I get in there and I clean it out with either toothpicks or Q-tips or whatever I can fit in there to clean it out. And then after that, I hit it with WD-40. Now, WD-40 is not a lubricant. The W and the D stand for water displacement, and that's why I'm hitting the joints with the WD-40 to get the water out of the joints. So I hit it with WD-40, work the joints a little bit to get the WD-40 in there to get the water out. Then I wipe it down as best I can and dry it off as best I can and get as much of the WD-40 off of it before I go and either use the coon pea or Victorinox's synthetic oil and put that in the joints. And that's usually what I do. And then I work it a little bit. And then if you ever notice that when you oil a knife and you open and close it a bit and it's like, man, it's still not moving too well. And you wipe it off and you add a little more oil and then you open and you close it. And it's like, man, it's still not going very well. Well, that's because the oil really hasn't made it into the joint yet. It takes a while. You got to remember, there's not a lot of tolerance in there. So what you have to actually do is wait a while. And usually I wait overnight and then I check it and see how the joint is working the next day. And if the joint is working smoothly, then I'm good. It's golden. It's ready to go. And that's usually what I've noticed is that the first day of the knives, when you first get them and you're working that joint and it's a little stiff or something, clean it out, re-oil it, because the oil can dry up in there, especially the synthetics and stuff. Get all the crud out, like I was explaining. Then re-oil it, give it a day, and then see how it works. Because if you oil it now and it's not moving well, and you try and keep cleaning it, all you're going to be doing is wasting oil. Give it a day, let the oil actually seep into the joints, and then see how it works. And usually you'll see that the next day it's working a whole lot better than the first day. At least that's been my experience. As for storing knives, they talk a lot about keeping a knife with a light coat of oil on it and stuff. I also remember in the Army being told if you're going to do something for long-term storage, keep it dry. Do not have that light coat of oil on it because the light coat of oil will attract dust. It's more important to keep it in a low humidity location, free of dust, and then throw in some silica gels to actually suck up any moisture in the area, and then just periodically check it to make sure that nothing is happening with it. And if you see something like rust forming, then do some oiling, treat it for the rust, and take it off. And that's really the thing I do mostly is I I keep most of my like fixed blades and stuff. I store them dry, and I just monitor them. I check them, every couple weeks, every month or so, and make sure that they're not collecting any rust or collecting any oil or collecting any dust, because that's really what's going to hurt it. I keep the area where my knife collection is at about 60% humidity, and the temperature is right around 70 to 75 degrees. So as long as that humidity is low and the temperature is low, your knives should be in pretty good shape, regardless of exactly how you're storing them. But you still need to continuously monitor them. Uh, if you notice, you see up here, I got a bunch of knives hanging there, uh, and they are stored in a way that you are told over and over and over not to store them. That is, having your knife in a leather sheath is going to be bad because it's going to collect rust. It's going to rust, it's going to stain. Well, you see there is nothing wrong with this. It's been in that leather sheath for a while. But what happens is, if I'm checking it, periodically every 2 or 3 weeks, pulling it out, checking it over, uh, giving it a little wipe down with some oil, and then drying it back off, it's not as big of an issue. What they're talking about with the long-term storage is when you're basically throwing it in a box and ignoring it for a long period of time. I guarantee you the knife will rust, it will stain. Not only that, your leather sheath will fall apart, and it'll just look like a mess. So the key is to keep a watch on stuff, and that's really what I do. Left unattended, a knife will change colors. Yes, it will. And they might even stab you in the back because knives like to have attention, they like to be used. So any other things or thoughts on all that? I mean, I've been yapping for a while. I'm going on almost an hour. I've topped Andy at Knives Guys Talk Knives. They've never gone an hour. I'm at 57 minutes. If I keep this up, who knows, maybe I'll be somebody someday. In any case, I think at this point I do need to start wrapping it up. I should be doing a little bit of other stuff. I bored the cat to sleep, so that's good. Uh, if you have any other questions, just feel free to leave them in the comment, and I will try and answer them as I can. I have fallen apart a few times on answering questions and comments, mainly because I'm trying to make new content for the page and keep up with all the other people who have channels out there. And with that said, I think I will start wrapping it up now. So thanks a lot for dropping by. Really appreciate your support. And I will talk to you again soon. And by the way, there is an episode coming out this Sunday, 11 o'clock Central Time. Talk to you soon.